When I was in my teenage years, I discovered that music is a way that I need to express myself. Therefore, I just kind of felt like music chose me in a way, and I didn't have a choice. Every album that I've created, every EP I've created, everything I've created basically so far, it all has kind of like a ground pillar in the spirituality and talking about, different stages of how it feels to be, again, a spiritual being in a human experience. Norwegian folk music is a big part of our culture and is something that I've grown up listening to and experiencing. And I always kind of wanted to explore this myself and try to make my own version of it. The metal side is here to balance in the sense that it kind of wakes you up a bit more. It's a bit more intense. It's not anger. It's never anger in my music. The clean vocals don't express how urgent the emotions are. I think music in general is very much about healing, isn't it? Like it starts with maybe a healing journey for the artists. Hopefully that can help heal other people as well in turn.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Hi, so today we are talking to SYLVAINE. Thank you for meeting me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So this interview, I mean it as a documentary. So can you please start telling how you started to do music?
So I'm from a musical family, basically. I have a dad that's a drummer, and I have a mom that's basically been working on the other side of the music business, so in record labels, in festivals, stuff like that. So I kind of grew up with music around my house. So when I was in my teenage years, I discovered that music is a way that I need to express myself. It kind of felt like a release of emotions that nothing else really could do. Therefore, I just kind of felt like music chose me in a way, and I didn't have a choice. So ever since I was 14 years old, I just decided that this is what I want to dedicate my life to. So basically, when I decided that, when I went to high school, I went to the music department, because in Norway we have this kind of where you can choose in high school what kind of direction you want to go in. I went to music high school, and then I did this 1 year of boarding school where I was majoring in band to test out my voice, to see if I could sing every day and it would manage to stay in good shape. And then I basically did a 3 years bachelor's degree at the University of Oslo in musicology. So music has been in my life since I was a kid, and basically since I was a teenager I just made choices to bring me to the point where I am now. So yeah.
How did you arrive to this particular style?
Thank you. Sorry, at a festival and it's loud. So as a listener, I'm quite open myself. I'm quite into all kinds of different music. I like everything from classical music to metal and everything in between. So I was quite fascinated by the duality in music, like the duality between harsh and kind of heavy stuff and more melodic, more soft and beautiful melodic things. So I kind of knew that when I started to make my own music that it would be basically very much tapping into this duality of the dark and light. I think it basically for me it was when I discovered one of the things that made me go in this direction was when I discovered the band Typo Negative, which I think is a band that does that very well, that light and dark. And it just made me confirm that yes, this is what I want to do in my music as well.
Why it's important to talk about light and dark? Why do you think?
Well, I think it's our lives on this planet as humans are basically, it's built up of contrasts, opposing forces and the balance between the opposing forces and the balance or imbalance we can find between opposites. So I think that actually it's just, for me it seemed very natural to work with opposites in my music, because it just seems to be a very human thing actually, urbanity versus nature, light versus dark, beautiful versus ugly, all this kind of stuff. It just made sense, and it just felt very right to base my musical project upon that, both sound-wise and also in my lyrics.
What do you think? Should art take people away from reality or rather ground?
Well, I mean, I've always said that I want my music to take people away from this place for a little moment, and I basically just want to give people a little bit of an escape, because for me, art, as much as it is a kind of expression of reality, is also very much an escape away from here, or like maybe not an escape, but maybe the means to connect to something that's beyond this place. And music does that for me, and I really want my listeners also to basically be able to be brought on this journey with me while I'm on stage or while they're listening to my music. So when I say that I want to bring people away from this place, that's what I mean. I want to take them on a journey with me for a little while that's not necessarily their everyday life, but something that's a bit more, I don't know, something more spiritual, something more extraordinary, something that makes them feel different than in everyday life.
You said like spirit and everything. So what's your take on spirituality?
Ooh.
It could be no one answer.
Yeah, of course. This is the question that's always complicated, because I created SYLVAINE as a project to try to express my spirituality and try to basically learn about myself and about my spiritual beliefs. I didn't actually know that when I first started the project, but it became quite apparent that this project is very much me on my spiritual journey and trying to be able to articulate what it is I believe in. So I kind of made this project also so I could try to express things that I find really difficult to put into words, because when I start talking about my spirituality now that I can put it into words, it always sounds a little bit crazy or a little bit, some people might say pretentious, but it's not meant in either way.
I would like to hear. I would like to hear more. Yeah.
Of course. But basically, so to put it very bluntly and to put it very simply, my spirituality basically lies in the belief that the soul, for lack of a better word, the soul is a separate entity from our human body, and basically the soul is just put inside of our body as a vehicle, basically, to be able to drive through this human experience, and we're sent here to learn, basically, about this life. So what does that mean? It means that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and it can create this kind of disconnect for some people that are maybe more in touch with the spiritual side than the human experience. Like, I believe that it seems like I'm one of these people. I've always felt on the outside, I've always felt kind of disconnected in a way, and I don't mean that in like, oh, I'm so special, not at all. I just always felt like I was kind of like an outsider looking in a bit in society, in my life in general. And I have through this like spiritual journey that I've had with SYLVAINE, I can say now that I think part of it at least comes from the fact that I'm a spiritual being disconnected from my origin, disconnected from what was before I came here, disconnected from what is coming after this. And that creates some difficulties, because I'm inside a body that has limited senses. And it's just like you're not completely your true self while you're here. So yeah, that's, I guess, my spiritual belief. Like in a very try to put it into easy terms. That's basically what I believe in. I believe we're all one, kind of like all one light or something, and we don't come from here, we come from somewhere else. So
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the funny part is that spirituality for me, it's such a personal thing. Like that's why I have a bit of an issue with like the organized religion, because it tries to make this kind of collective thing out of something that is deeply personal, and it also tries to create like a hierarchy between people based on their religion or their belief, which I think is inherently just wrong. For me, it's always a funny thing to talk about, because I'm not trying to convert people to my belief, but at the same time, I also dedicated like most of my life to making music about this. So it's important. Every album that I've created, every EP I've created, everything I've created basically so far, it all has kind of like a ground pillar in the spirituality and talking about, different stages of how it feels to be, again, a spiritual being in a human experience, and the difficulties that this bring. Like my first album was very much me trying to find out what am I doing with this? Like, how can I express this? The second album was very lonely. I felt like I felt really disconnected from like my true self, and you could feel it. I felt like alienated in that record. The third album, Adam's Line Coming Undone, that I made, it was very much like, I felt like a bit more of an observer, like watching society and just going, why are humans so incredibly cruel to each other? What is this? Like, this seems so strange to me, because we're all one. It doesn't matter race, color, religion, anything. It doesn't matter. Like, we're all one and we're all equally worth the same. And then Nova was a bit more like my last album, my fourth album, Nova, was a bit more connected to a specific event that happened in my personal life. At the same time that it also had this like feeling of it's really hard to accept that I don't have control and there is no way for me to control this life, because that's the only thing that's constant in this life is change. And pain is also a part of change. I mean, great things are part of change as well. But so, I mean, I think it's noticeable in the lyrics, but also in the music itself. It has this kind of, I hope at least, it has this kind of otherworldly, ethereal quality to it. At least some of the songs. So yeah, that's kind of how you can feel the spirituality in the music, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And trust me, it's pretty obvious from your records.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, what is your attitude to folk? I know that the very last EP is folkish. So how does it joins your art?
It's a good question. How folk basically fits into my art. So as I just said, like I'm a very open person when it comes to music and to listening to music myself. So folk has been something I really liked as well. And of course, living in Norway, Norwegian folk music is a big part of our culture and is something that I've grown up listening to and experiencing. And I always kind of wanted to explore this myself and try to make my own version of it, or like, you know, without desecrating tradition, but still like taking it and making my own somehow. And yeah, last year became that year where I decided that, or the year before technically, 2023, became the year when I decided that I really want to do this and I really want to make it a reality. Because yeah, it's been with me for many years actually. I've been inspired by folk for a long time, which I think you can also actually hear in my music. It's in there among other, you know, genres or other kind of expressions. So, but just, yeah, being in Norway, growing up in Norway, it's something you hear a lot, actually, like in everyday life, like at school or like, you know, or National Day or all this kind of stuff. It's just around us. So it becomes kind of a natural part of the creative expression that comes out. And then last year releasing this record that was purely dedicated to that, it just felt like the right thing to do. Like I really had wanted to do this for years, so yeah.
And it was a bit of surprise that you played Helvegen today.
Yes. Yeah, it's today's set here at Midgardsblot in Norway was very folky. Like I had a lot of folk pieces, and I chose songs from my so-called regular records, my like full band records, that are also a bit more on the folky side. And I don't know, I still feel like I'm at home. You know, I still feel like this feels totally natural for me to do. It doesn't feel more or less natural than when I play with my band, but it definitely feels like it's a part of my musical expression. So yeah, I'm very happy that I've had the chance to explore it, and I definitely know that it will continue to happen in the future as well. So yeah.
Is it like scary to open up in your art? Because it's like you have to put some personal stuff outside, right? You have to publish for the entire world to see what you felt at some point.
Absolutely. I've actually been asked quite a lot, like, aren't you afraid that you're being too personal, or that they're opening up too much? And my answer is always no. Like, I think while I'm creating and while I'm making something, I never really try to think about what happens after the creation, like that I have to share this with other people, I have to talk about the songs. I always just try to keep them very honest and very authentic, in the sense of like I'm just expressing what I need to express. What needs to come out at that moment will come out, and then I'll have to deal with the consequences of it later. So it definitely is scary. It definitely is scary. It's very vulnerable, and basically music is used as therapy for a lot of artists. And sometimes you might not want to talk about those situations or what has inspired it over and over again, but you will, because that's just nature of the game. But in the end, I think it's really important to be very open, very honest, very personal, because that's what makes people feel, I think, because they can relate maybe, or they feel seen, or they can at least feel maybe compassion, I guess. So yeah, it's scary for sure to open your heart, and you're leaving yourself very vulnerable to be hurt, like when people criticize your life's work. But for me, I don't know another way to do it. So for now, I'm just going to keep doing that and hope for the best.
I have that a little bit tricky question. So
yes.
You choose like metal elements in your music to express feelings. What metal sound adds to that expression? Why do you think it's the right choice?
That's a good question. Basically, I think it was just, like I said earlier about the kind of extreme outer points in sound, trying to keep it, if the other extreme of metal would be, for example, just my voice, or like keeping it very soft, very melodic, very sweet, very atmospheric maybe. The metal side is here to balance in the sense that it kind of wakes you up a bit more. It's a bit more intense. It's not anger. It's never anger in my music. That's not a part of the emotional vocabulary. Maybe frustration. I think with the metal elements, like for example the screaming vocals in particular, I like to use them when I feel like the clean vocals don't express how urgent the emotions are. Like it feels like it's not enough. It doesn't really reach the level of the emotion I want. So I think the metal elements that I use are basically for that, to try to express when the emotions get so much and so intense, so overwhelming that I'm just like, I need to let it out, and it comes out that way. And also as a balance, basically, like, ugly versus beautiful. So I think it's really interesting. Like I love, for example, using blast beats or using tremolo guitars or using screen vocals, stuff like that, to balance out the kind of harmony that is in the more atmospheric, melodic side of my project. So yeah, it's an emotional thing for sure. Like, yeah.
In my brain, I a little bit compare you to Merker because she's like that as well. She's also doing folk and metal together. What's your creative process like? How you arrive at your songs?
So my creative process, because I'm the only member of this project, like SYLVAINE is my solo project, so I'm the only person writing music, I'm the only person writing lyrics. I'm also the only person recording the instruments in studio, apart from the drums, which I share. Usually I give that to someone else, because the things that I write, I can't play them like as well, because I'm not a very good drummer. I can play drums, but not that great. So my creative process is very much me sitting down with a guitar. That's pretty much how it goes. I've learned over the years, after releasing 4 albums, 2 EPs, and like doing many guest vocals, that there's no real rules to how things work. Like if there's a certain order of how things happen. But for me, what I need to write music is basically I need mental space. So I don't have to be in a specific mood. I just need a bit of mental space. I don't, like right now, for example, in summer where we do festivals, and like every other week or every week I'm out traveling, so I'm home for 4 days and then I'm gone 3. That's not a good rhythm for basically being in a mental place to be able to write music. So I need a bit of quiet, a bit of space in my mind, and then I just usually sit down with my guitar, and from there, like very often the first thing to happen is the main structure of the guitar, then maybe the vocals, then maybe other guitar parts, then drums, bass, synthesizers, arrangements. But there's no real rules. But usually the creative process starts with me either singing something into my phone or me sitting with the guitar on my couch at home. Sometimes I like to think of inspiration like a muse, like it's something that's speaking through you. So in that sense, you could say that maybe sometimes it feels like there's a higher force or something else out there that's trying to speak through you in your music. But I also like to say that SYLVAINE is my audio diary, so it's very much like me just trying to process my feelings, my thoughts, my emotions, and like my inside world versus the outside world. Again, the duality between things. So maybe a bit of both, I would say. Maybe a bit of both. Maybe something speaking through me, but also just me trying to figure out my stuff here while being alive on this planet.
Yeah, being alive is complicated. Yeah.
For sure, for so many reasons. And I'm not going to complain. I get to do what I love for a living, so my life could be far worse, but definitely it's not the easiest. That's true.
Since you mentioned like therapeutical effect of the music, your journey like in music, how did it change you? Was it a therapy for you? Did you become like a little bit healed during those years?
I would hope so. Yeah, I mean, I think music in general is very much about healing, isn't it? Like it starts with maybe a healing journey for the artists, and then my hope at least always is that when I've had the chance to express and through that maybe heal a bit, because I've be able to release something, even if it's not a solution that lasts forever, I'm still being able to release stuff that needs to come out. Hopefully that can help heal other people as well in turn, that maybe they can relate to the feelings, and through that they feel seen and they feel like I'm not alone in this. That's my biggest wish, actually. So yeah, I think through the years that I've made music, definitely what has happened is I know that I've become more sure of myself because I got to know myself better on a deeper level. I got to know myself in ways that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise without music. So I feel like I've grown a lot through creating music. It's definitely helped heal parts of me, like especially Nova, my last album that was released in 2022. That was a record that was so painful to make. But when it was released and I let it out into the world, there was like, a weight just lifted off my shoulders. And yeah, I think definitely it's been a very healing process, and it's changed me for the better, I think, as a person. Yeah.
Did any fans approach to you and tell you like some stories how your music affected them?
Yes, that happens almost every show, and I never get used to that. I never get used to people listening to my music actually at all. I never take it for granted that there are people out there that want to support this thing that I'm doing, and it always touches my heart so much. Like just now, actually, after the show here at Midgardsblot in Helvegen, I had a very, very kind Swedish woman, I didn't catch her name, unfortunately, come up to me, and she was like, she just looked at me and she had like tears like rolling down her cheeks, and she was like, "You can't do that to me." And then she was like, "No, for real, I'm thank you so much for what you do, and please never stop because you're healing us." And even now thinking about it makes me emotional, because it's music is an art form that has something very, very special. It has this ability to heal people. It has this ability to create community across borders, across genders, across everything, basically. And just make us kind of equal. And because, one soul can speak to another soul, it doesn't matter the language, it doesn't matter our situations that we're in. And is something to me that's really, really beautiful. And yeah, I never get used to people saying that my music has helped them or saved them even. That means everything to me.
Yeah. About your album covers, so why you choose those covers? What do they represent?
That's also a very good question. So I'm a very visually inspired person. Like, I really like visual art. It's a big inspirational source in my life. So I'm very careful with the covers that I choose for my records because I take it very serious that this is the visual world of my album. And so the first album that I released back in 2014, Silent Chamber, Noisy Heart, I wanted to be on the cover of that one because that album was such a big step for me. So I felt like I needed to be depicted on the album, and I kind of wanted to be in this state of floating, sort of. So I chose, I had my best friend, that became my best friend because of this cover, take this picture, and just kind of a bit more like, here I am, this is my project, very personal. And when I did Nova in 2022, 3 years ago, it was a bit the same. It was a very, very personal story. I wanted to be naked on the cover because I feel this is the ultimate form of vulnerability. You can't hide behind anything because it's just you. And this cover also depicts the person is kind of falling apart or coming to be. And that was something that I knew very early on in the process, that I wanted this cover to look like this because it felt like the right depiction of the journey that the record held. The two other albums, so the third album, Adam's Line Coming Undone, this cover was basically, it was monochrome. It was pretty stark, pretty dark in a way, because the record also was very much a bit more rough sounding. It was a bit more connected to the outside world and reality, and how I kind of just felt why are we, I said, why are we so cruel to each other, and a bit I guess disappointed that we keep hurting each other as humans. So it kind of depicted a bit more harsh looking cover. Second album, Wistful, in 2016, it was a very, very ambient, atmospheric record, and I wanted the cover to depict that as well. So, I mean, every cover, basically, what I'm saying here is basically that every cover is just a visual representation of the story of the album. In my opinion, I think it's that anyway. So that's how I choose the covers. Basically, just listen to the story that I'm trying to tell, and then I try to make the visual that I feel is most appropriate to tell that story, even without people listening to the music, but just seeing the image. So that's how that comes about. So
your music is sometimes about like light and dark and existential boundaries and fragility. Yes. So essentially it talks about things that we cannot control, and those things is a little bit terrifying, you know, to know that we cannot control everything, that the fate is like random and whatnot. How can we stay calm and happy in such situation, and maybe what helps you?
Music. Nature is a big one too. For me, nature is probably one of the most important things in life to me, because nature basically represents us, I guess, in a way. It represents the kind of only gateway we really truly have here on this planet to reconnect with that other place that I believe that we come from. It's a way to kind of strip off the layers that society builds on us and just, you know, be left with the soul and the core. So nature for me is a really big part of my life, and I would say that it could help a lot of people if you just spend more time, you know, have walks in the forest or go spend time by the sea, or it doesn't have to be anything specific, but this not being disconnected from nature I think is really important, because we are part of it, and sometimes it feels like the modern man and our society kind of forgets that we are also animals. We're also part of the animal kingdom and nature. And the other one is art, I think. There's many things, of course, that can help us like you said, be in a situation that can't really control, and how to feel calm. There's many things, but I think nature is a big one, and I think art is another one. And maybe for me the main one in art is music, because music has this, like, again, it's the language of the soul. You know, you don't have to you don't need anything specific to understand emotion, because emotion is something from the soul as well. So yeah, maybe art and nature were the things that I would say you couldn't live without, and still feel at peace, for me personally.
This I just have to ask, how you came up with a merchandise which is a tea?
Oh yes, the tea! I was like, what? I have tea? Yeah, that's right. So basically, I had a long period of time where I wasn't drinking any alcohol. Now I do occasionally, but I've never been like a big drinker of alcohol, actually, which is kind of weird as a Norwegian. I shouldn't admit that, because that's not cool. I've never been cool, so it's fine. So I was approached by a couple of different people making like mead and beer and stuff like that. And they were wondering if I wanted to make like a SYLVAINE mead or a SYLVAINE beer. And I always said to my label, because they were the ones that were in contact with these people, my publicists, I just kind of said jokingly, oh, you know, it doesn't feel kind of right to put my name on alcohol when I'm not really drinking myself. But, you know, if you ever have the chance to make tea, I'll do that. And then actually came the chance to actually make a SYLVAINE tea. I was approached by this very, very cool company in the US that's basically just owned by a couple, by a husband and wife. And they make a whole lot of cool stuff and different kinds of blends. And they wondered if I would be interested in doing a collaboration. And it just felt like, yeah, that seems much more like me than doing a beer or a mead or something like that. So I was just like embracing my granny side, and I was like, yes, I shall make SYLVAINE tea. So that's why that happened. And I think it's very fitting. For the people that know me, they're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I think I asked all my questions.
Did you? Okay, well done.
Okay, so just to close the interview, maybe a little message to the listeners of your music, and if you have any future plans, you can also mention them.
Of course. So first and foremost, thank you so much if you've been watching this and you've gotten this far of me just talking about stuff. That's very nice. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. And thank you so much for listening to my music, to those of you out there who have already, or those of you who might want to try it now. I really appreciate that. Like I said already, I never quite understand that there's people around the world that listen to what I'm sitting in my house, in my living room or bedroom writing. And I really, really appreciate every single one of you out there. I'm going to be taking a little break from the end of this year into next year. I'm going to be back playing again next year, but I'm going to try to finish up my next album, my 5th album. That's been a bit slow because it's been hard with the schedule. That's been very hectic, which has been great. But I need a bit of peace, as I said, a peace of mind to be able to create. So yeah, I'm going to be taking a little step back. Not too much, of course. I say that there's still shows planned, but a bit more of a step back in the beginning of next year. And then hopefully at the end of next year, I can finally share some new music. So thank you so much for listening, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. I will be personally looking forward to your new record.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.